This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Marc Thompson.
Make It Plain.
Get woke.
God bless you. Get woke. Folks, MIP is now COVID-free, meaning free to all subscribers as we navigate this pandemic. We're thinking about everyone, and we've got to get through this together. So for a limited time, no fee to subscribe to Make It Plain on your favorite podcast app. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my good friend joining us on Make It Plain today is none other than the president of the National Urban League. We all know the great work the Urban League has done. Since I was a kid, though, I always look forward to the State of Black America report. I thought that was just one of the most powerful documents. It was almost like a Bible to our community. And it was always, and whenever I would give speeches, I would use that as a primary point of reference. What better reference is there? So there's a new State of Black America report out. And folks, we are just days away from the anniversary of the March on Washington. He'll be joining us there. So we're going to talk about all of that with the president of the National Urban League, Marc Morial. My brother, how are you, man?
Hey, my brother. Good to be with you, Marc. Thank you for what you do, and congratulations on a distinguished career, speaking the truth and giving us a chance to really have a genuine conversation.
Thank you, brother. Well, and thank you also for all you do, and thank you for our years of friendship. So, Marc, I guess this State of Black America is unique because we're smack in the middle of a pandemic. Never quite had a State of Black America like that under those circumstances before, have we?
Hey, and we like to look at it as the pandemic unmasking the historic disparities that have long existed. But I also like to think of it as three crises intertwined. We've got a health crisis, which is what COVID is, a deep health crisis unlike any we've seen in this country for at least 100 years. We have a resulting economic crisis where the economy is in a semi-comatose state with millions of people who are unemployed, with businesses who are closing, with travel having ground to a halt. And then we have the racial justice crisis, which, once again, with this incident in Kenosha, Wisconsin, I was gut-wrenched to see that young man who now I understand is paralyzed for life. And if you saw the video, it was plain and stark that this was a inappropriate use of force. This was a criminal act by a man in a uniform against a man who did not deserve to be shot. So all of these three take front and center in the 2020 State of Black America report. Our stats, honestly, were compiled before COVID, but they still reveal a significant disparity between Black people and white people, and a significant disparity between Latinx people and white people in America.
The stats have always fascinated me. I want to go there first. And of course, they were taken before COVID. We always look to the State of Black America to let us know how many cents on the dollar African Americans make in comparison to whites, the poverty rates and all that. Give us a snapshot.
Let me give you a couple of numbers so we don't get bogged down. So the median income for a Black family in America is probably in the low 40,000s. The median income for a white family is probably in the low to mid 70,000s. So that's a gap of some $30,000. When it comes to wealth, that means the property you own, the savings you have, the stock you own. The average white family has 10 times as much wealth as the average Black family. these economic disparities are quite stark. Of the 2.5 million African-American owned businesses in the country, 90% of them, which is roughly maybe about 2 million, 2.2 million, have one employee, and that's the owner or the stockholder or the shareholder. So very small, but yet 2.5 million Black small businesses in the country. So those are some numbers that might be of interest to people. Now, in COVID, of the 100 and is today's number 70,000 who've died, the best numbers suggest that 40% are African American. So that means that you're looking at 70,000 Black people who have died. But we've got to underscore that the majority of the deaths and the majority of the cases remain amongst white Americans, but a disparity and a disproportionate number of Black and brown and American Indian, Native American. So those numbers, so we take all these numbers and we have an index. And the index shows that the status of Blacks is 73.8% that of whites. And that's the way the index operates. Where are we on this sort of benchmark against white Americans? And so these are averages. And our community is a community where some are doing better and some are doing worse. But when you look at the averages, that's indeed where they are. Now, what's most important, Mark, about the numbers is they haven't changed much in 16 years. They haven't changed much since the century, the 21st century, if you will, began. And some things have improved. Healthcare improves, but then economics goes down. Education improves a little bit, and then social justice goes down. So on an overall basis, the change has been very, very little. Inside of it, there have been changes. And the final thing I'll say about it, think of the analogy of a caboose. Caboose is on a train. When the train moves, the caboose moves. When the train moves fast, the caboose moves fast. When the train slows down, the caboose slows down. But the caboose is always what? Last on the train. Black folks are a lot like the caboose on the American train. We're riding in the back, and when the economy speeds up, the unemployment rate in Black America goes down, but the disparity doesn't change.
You mentioned the businesses as well. I think we also know that many businesses, Black businesses, did not get the financial assistance that white businesses got during COVID as well. So we can probably hypothesize that many of those one or two person operations, may be suffering and may be going out of business as a result.
Even if you got the PPP loan, the PPP loan was only designed to assist you for a few months, not on an ongoing basis. But PPP, Paycheck Protection Program, was a bit of a fiasco in that it did not put, we argued, and in the second COVID bill, there was a bit of a carve out, but we wanted a carve out. I argued for a carve out for Black businesses. Absent that, a carve out for businesses with less than 5 employees. So the opportunity for the smaller businesses to be able to participate. But it was designed to benefit those businesses that had a banking relationship because the money was channeled through the banking system. Now, on the second round, we pushed, we shoved. Charles Schumer was helpful. Black caucus leaders were helpful. Maxine Waters and Karen Bass, to name a few, were extremely helpful. We got a carve out for Black depository institutions or Black banks and Black community lending agencies. And we still don't have the best numbers on how that carve out actually benefited Black businesses. But all in all, the program was designed with significant flaws. That's why in any new COVID bill, we want a specific intentional carve out for Black businesses. I mean, it is the only way And Black and Hispanic businesses tend to be in the same basket, or even a focus more on smaller businesses. Less than 5 employees is what we need. And so I hope people have learned a lesson. That bill was put together by the administration without any input from those that advocate for Black businesses. The U.S. Black Chamber, the National Urban League, the Black Economic Alliance, the NAACP, all of us who work in this space and advocate, we were not consulted at the beginning on the design of the program.
In terms of wealth, and you and I were talking just before we started this interview about HR 40, and I know you and the Urban League are big supporters. We know that when we talk about forms of reparations, we aren't just talking about individual checks. In fact, if everybody got a check today for a couple $1,000s, Mark, in this economy during COVID, it would just go right back out into the white economy like that. Wealth, it is not the measurement of wealth in this country and our lack thereof measurable when it comes to what the white middle class got that we didn't get. The Homestead Act, FHA, GI Bill, and all of that, and then home ownership ultimately. Isn't that pretty much where wealth is and has been in America?
In America, you're so right. It is in land ownership, home ownership, building ownership, farm ownership, lot ownership, investment properties. And here's an important number. In America, 2/3 of wealth comes from intergenerational transfers. So wealth is not necessarily built in a single generation. Let me give you an example of an intergenerational transfer that we might not understand. So an intergenerational transfer is also when a parent can say to their child, go to college, we'll pay the tuition, you don't have to borrow. Mm-hmm. Or where a parent says, you now have a college degree, I will pay the down payment on your first home. Yeah. To help you get started. So right there, if you're 20, let's say 25 years old, and you've got a college degree from one of the best universities in America, and your cohort who happens to be Black has the same degree, but $200,000 in student loans. You could be at the same job, making the same money, and your white cohort's wealth accumulation ability is already 20 years ahead because of where they start. So we have to understand that making college more affordable is something that would assist in our ability to create wealth. Home ownership. So home ownership, when you have these high down payment requirements, you don't have the money, you say, well, I could pay the mortgage. I just can't come up on a $250,000 home. I can't come up with $25,000, $35,000 to buy it. So maybe I've got to go get me an FHA loan or a different kind of loan that might have insurance requirements. So other types of things. We have to focus like a laser on building home ownership, and we have to focus like a laser on building Black earnings, income, what people make. We need a comprehensive living wage, and we have to deal with the fact that the last 30 to 40 years, most people's wages, earnings, have not kept pace with inflation. So what we have now is people who work every day, people that have good jobs, people who are, but they're still on the edge of poverty. They still can't make it. So the phenomenon of today is working poor, working people on the edge. And so I get fired up and beside myself when people seek to paint unemployment as meaning unemployed people who don't want to work, right? That they want to caricature it, they want to stereotype it. So State of Black America report, we're squarely want to put a spotlight and a circle around health equity, economic equity, and racial justice equity, particularly in policing and the criminal justice system.
Trump keeps saying, Mark, what have you got to lose? Tell us, what
we have everything to lose. Well, the Trump administration, so I like to, step back and say, let's look at a few things. Number one, you've got the least diverse cabinet in modern American history. You've got the least diverse White House staff in modern American history. You've got judicial appointments. Think about that. Least diverse with respect to not only Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, and women. I think 90% have been white men. So you just start there with the appointments that the president has made, and then you go to the policies. And it was interesting that the president has taken all this credit for the economy. You inherited a great economy. No president inherited a better economy than Donald Trump and George W. Bush.
That's right.
George W. Bush inherited a great economy from Bill Clinton and a relatively balanced budget. And 8 years later, we had been through a deep recession and we were in significant debt. Donald Trump, Barack Obama inherited a broken economy, high unemployment, a great recession. He turned it around. He fixed it. He hands the reins to Donald Trump. And we're creating 200,000 jobs a month. And that just continued under the Trump administration. What I say to people is Donald Trump wants to own the low unemployment of a year ago. He's got to own the high unemployment of now. You can't pick, I own the sunshine, but I don't own the storm. You're responsible for everything that happens on your watch.
Yeah. Social justice, of course. Here we are, August 28th, 1955, Emmett Till. And in the same week, we have a Jacob Blake. We just can't seem to get away from him, Mark. And you mentioned him being paralyzed. Clearly, from the number of shots that were fired, that was not the intention. So
the intent was to kill.
The intent was to kill. So I'm sure they're going to be, as tragic as this is, we will have Jacob at some point as a living oral testimony as to his experience. And that's something, as to his experience, and that's something no one ever wants to leave around.
Yeah, he can tell us what happened. Yeah, so many of these have led to deaths.
Yeah. What does this Friday mean to you? Obviously, the Urban League, one of the legacy organizations, one of the organizations at the first Great March on Washington. And why is it important?
For our generation, the civil rights movement, my parents were active in the civil rights movement. It's the generation of our parents and our grandparents. The civil rights movement changed the trajectory of the nation in profound ways. And the high point of the 1960s was the March on Washington, because it represented this mass mobilization unheard of in modern American history, a peaceful mobilization, and a defining piece of oratory by Dr. King, which was the most important speech given in the history of this nation. So I get goosebumps, I get chills to just think that we have an opportunity today to stand on their shoulders and to try to face the nation, to finally honor the check that they've given us that was marked non-sufficient funds. And so I affirm the changes and the transformation, but I also believe it's a time when we've got to take stock of the reality that we have begun to lose ground, that the nation has begun to retrench on so many issues. The killings of unarmed Black men remind us of this. The gun violence reminds us of this. The coarse rhetoric and the failure to enforce civil rights laws by the Justice Department reminds us of this. So it's a special time, and I feel very honored. I was there, and part of the effort that we organized in 2013, you were there, the 50th anniversary. So this coming at a time of the Black Lives Matter movement and a refreshed and renewed and re-energized civil rights movement, I think it makes this gathering, this coming together on Friday very special.
Yeah, no question about it. Lastly, it's always good when we can talk about, well, the other thing that's setting us back is voter suppression, Mark. And you have been quite articulate on the way in which our people are targeted on social media for voter suppression and the way Russia is continuing to target our people. You have been as outspoken as I have on that. Add that to the mail. Seems like we're in trouble, man.
We are under attack in ways unforeseen. Voter ID laws, cut back on early voting, voter intimidation at the polling places. We've seen those movies before. We've not seen the movie of interference with the post office, the effort to undermine the very delivery system for the ballot. Until 2016, we've not seen a naked, unapologetic, diabolical effort by foreign power to mask itself as members of our community and to encourage us not to vote. These schemes and these efforts by these players is as low and as despicable as anything I've ever seen. We must push back, Mark. We must push back. And we must let our community know that you've got to beware of things that traffic on the internet. Everybody on the internet is not who they say they are. Everybody on the internet posing as an activist is not a real activist. And we have to continue to call it out because Russia is at it again. And they use all kind of diabolical schemes. They are masters at creating, recruiting, and utilizing front groups. They're masters at hitching their wagon on to conspiracy theories and retweeting it and giving it power through echo chambering on the internet. They're masters at it. They've been doing that in the Eastern Bloc for 70 to 80 years. It's what they did to control the old Soviet client states. And we're seeing it now play out, brazen efforts to manipulate the elections process.
Yeah, and we've got to be prepared. Folks, one way to get prepared and stay prepared is to keep up with the National Urban League, NUL.org. Go there and check out the State of Black America. Keep up with what the Urban League is doing. And again, the Urban League, we've really got just a couple of organizations that have legacy infrastructure. That is boots on the ground in many of our local cities and states. One is the NAACP, one is the Urban League. So there are many ways to get involved. Again, folks, we will not tweet our way to freedom. Social media is good for what it's good for, but it's not going to happen on Twitter. We've got to be organized right where we are. So folks, check out your local Urban League and also go to NUL.org. Marc Morial.
Thank you, Mark Thompson. Thank you so much. And again, thanks for the shout out for all my Urban League colleagues, frontline soldiers all across the nation who are doing the great work every single day. Thank you for what you do. And I'll see you at the march.
See you on Friday. Thank you, man.
All right, man.
God, you are our refuge. Send our ancestors to guard our doors. Cast out this virus from our communities and our bodies. Heal, bless, and protect everyone listening and their loved ones. Thank you for listening to Make It Plain and Get Woke. Remember to listen, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.
The new year is the perfect time to start building credit scores. Because when your credit scores increase, your opportunities do too, like loan approvals and lower interest rates. Chime makes it easier to keep building your credit with a secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. You can use Credit Builder everywhere Visa credit cards are accepted. Chime helps you build your credit score safely by using your own money to make everyday purchases and on-time payments. To apply, just open a Chime checking account with a $200 qualifying direct deposit. And don't stress, there's no annual fee or credit check required to apply and get started. Start building your credit history and finding new opportunities with the secured Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card. Get started today at chime.com/build. That's chime.com/build. The Chime Credit Builder Visa credit card is issued by Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. Late payment may negatively impact your credit score. Results may vary.